Yeah, it was already 17:15, so it's time to start with the colloquium. Good evening, my name is Noémie Ammann. I'm moderate today's event. This is already the fourth semester in which our 17:15 colloquium takes place, so many of you probably already know the procedure. We will first hear the lecture about blockchain technology given by our guest, Professor Josep de la Rosa.
Hello.
About the lecture, after the lecture, you will have the opportunity to discuss the topic in plenary. Finally, you are, as always, invited to an apéro, which will take place just outside of this room. So much about the program, and now to the essence. In the context of blockchain technology, you may think about finance or banking rather than about libraries. However, it is obvious that librarians are interested in blockchain technology. Blockchains have properties that librarians really like. They store data, and they do so in a trustworthy and long-term manner. And this fits very well with the work librarians have always done. Therefore, it is to consider that it is more than just a hype when librarians think about potential applications of blockchain in or for libraries. And in today's colloquium, we have the opportunity to do this, and we have the expert, Professor Josep de la Rosa from the University of Girona in Spain. His curriculum is comprehensive, and therefore I mention only a few aspects that are related to our event. Mr. de la Rosa has been researching for years in the field of blockchain and smart contract technologies, and he has advised and initiated numerous projects and ventures in this subject area, such as, to give you only one example, the vlicense.io, where creative professionals can save their ideas with blockchain technology. And currently, and fortunately for us, he is a visiting professor at ETH Zurich. And now I give the floor to you.
Okay, thank you, Noémie. Thank you. Just simply to start with the presentation. Normally, presentations we need to talk about catchy things, about things that are getting your attention. And blockchain is one of them. But there are other words, that is money and sex. So I will start with sex to catch your attention. That's because blockchain is like teenagers' sex. It's something that everybody talks about it. So that's as everybody, but nobody really knows. As everybody are talking, you're supposed they're doing, and so you're as well doing. This is what is happening in blockchain. That's the hype we're doing. So the thing is, what are people claiming they're doing? You see here some of the examples. That's Deloitte. You see the image of what people are telling. A lot of applications out of the financial, the fintech, the original fintech applications are in the supply chain for certifying all deliveries, are in the areas of, for example, Internet of Things, talking about digital identity of things, sovereignty, or payments, voting as well, and digital records. Digital records that the first applications are in the domain of music ownership and rights. So this is changing. This was last year, and now you see in 1 year the many more applications are happening. Many of them could be of your interest, like especially stamping, time stamping of documents for certifying the originality or genuinity of content, who belongs to what, who's dealing with that content, the accessing, sharing, certifying who is allowed to see what content, the access to IP, the tracking, and something that is not here displayed is the preservation. I would like to talk about preservation. But before, just I assume that you have some basics of blockchain, and but I just will summarize instead of explaining the properties by examples. Blockchain is designed for making payments as easy as paying with cash, or as difficult as paying with cash today. Because the thing is that when you're paying cash, you may have a direct transaction. You don't need anybody else. You just give the cash, the other accepts the cash, and you seal the deal. When you try to do this digital, so far we had the need to use a centralized database and normally a bank to certify that you were transferring your wealth to one person or another. Blockchain changes this. Again, has the advantage of paying as cash, but in digital means. That's the property. Because if you were not doing by blockchain, that's moving. No? Moment, I need to, yeah. This has the automatic, I forget to skip the option of automatic. Okay. So that's the property we're talking about, the blockchain and cash. So this is what is done with virtual currency. Could be done with other type of objects that called tokens or other type of digital assets. For example, you know this project of kitties? These lovely kitties, don't you like them? Adorable. They are created artificially and they tell you that they are unique. When you have one of these kitties, it's only for you. There's no one else that has this token, this kitty. With this unique kitty, you can trade. And people are trading, high trading. They are trading a lot with this. And you see the value. You see this value of every kitty. They have the price for sale because they trade in Ether. Ether that now has changed just to brief 200 euros, just to say go fast. So you can see that it's 60 euros, 50, 100. One of the kitties were sold by 70,000 euros. So you create the tokens, and blockchain is certifying that when you have a token, only you have it. And that's good because then the uniqueness of this property management is the one that is granting you the rights of this object and the benefits of this object. This is an example. Of course, another example of token, voting. Every one of you, instead of a kitty, you're granting something much more interesting, that's a vote. And only you have a vote. With this vote, what can you do? You can submit it to an address. In a voting, you have the one address for saying yes, another address for saying no. Who wants to vote yes sends the token, the vote to yes, and the token to no. And then you simply count up, and then you know you have the result of the election. This is the promise. And this is in fact happening. The problem, of course, is not of these technologies. The problem is of census, of how you sense all those, how you distribute these tokens to the people who have the right, who has the right to vote. This is the concept of tokenization. I'm telling you many other examples, apart from money. You create tokens, that for you the connection with librarians is the digital assets, digital objects. So start feeling this. This tokenization, this is in Austria. They have treasurer cash patriotic loans, and they simply split into tokens and they sell it to the public, over 1 billion euros. So, what's the advantage of tokenizing this treasure, this cash money? Because then people, when you have a token that is worth a share of this loan, then you can again, like the kitties, you can trade with them. It's much more liquid. Or another examples of tokenization. So the point is that you can, with blockchain, you can get tokens of nearly everything. That's the new thing that's happening. So this is, for example, vino, open vino. That's Argentinian, and when they have borrowed all the wine of the year, they can sell 3 years ahead in this case, nearly 100,000 bottles of wine. and every bottle of wine is one token. So they put on for sale 100,000 tokens in the market. People buy this, they trade with this, and they don't need to just decide what is the price. The market decides the price. They start at the beginning with €4 a bottle. Now the bottles, I just have a look yesterday, they are about €12. They multiply by 3. So people just were trading, and they trade because they feel ownership of one bottle or 10 bottles because they have 10 tokens. So the more and more you see that blockchain is opening category, the tokenization of things, many more digital objects that are coming, and you need to deal with them, and you need to preserve their value. So let's go. Now you've been familiar with this new category of objects that are the tokens, and let's do a step previous. It's something you are as well familiar, is the photographies. No? The thing is that in the digital libraries, the more and more we are having digitally born objects, the more and more. This was not the situation years ago, but this was the beginning, for example, of Facebook. This is the picture, this is the number of pictures that were uploaded to Facebook in 2011, in one day. Just print it and spread just to have an idea of how much. Now is more than 400 times more in only 8 years. And this is printed, but now this is all digital. So the thing is that we have we're living now one situation, that the more and more the objects are born digital, and the worthy objects to be preserved by libraries are the digital version and not the paper or other supports. So that's the moment you ingest objects in your library for preservation, you need to take in mind that the digital object per se, is an asset. It's an asset that contains valuable information. You have here some, I don't know, you know Vint Cerf. Cerf is one of the important guys in computer science, and he's in Google, he was working, and he just claimed that look out of this interesting phenomenon we are living now, and the digitization process. We are turning many things digital, but not only scanning content, but they are born digital. But we are in the beginning of this phenomenon. And one of the next question is, what will happen with this massive amount of content that is now digital? How this will be preserved for a long time? That's familiar for you, the preservation of these things. If we don't move, and then always the thoughts, the fear, and the typical fear message. Hey, look out! If you don't preserve, we'll lose it forever. That's very common in libraries. But then this is the more and more people are talking about this. Hey, really, there might be happening a blackout. There's a risk. Because the digital technology is not like these old vellum codices that are 1,000 years and still, with some damages, but still after this curation could be used and preserved and could be still workable. 1,000 years in digital. Can you imagine? The risk what we have is that our digital history might be lost in a mist of uninterpretable bits. That's the real, but not 1,000 years. Even in 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. This is happening now. So if this is the situation in digitization, let alone the new thing that blockchain are promising is the value. You know, when I was talking about how the objects are now becoming tokens, and tokens are a little bit different from the original related assets. The thing is that so far we have objects, digital objects that were text, simple objects that were sound, that were image, that were simple objects, or more complex objects like webs, databases, things like that. But this is the internet, that's the old paradigm. With blockchain, it's opening something new. It's about value, it's not about what is the information, but the value of that information. When you have a kitty is an image. But it's not only an image, it's the uniqueness of you that have that precious kitty that is worth $7,000. 7,000, 70,000, I said, right? So that's the more and more, and what's happening with blockchain, what is promising, is that there will be an explosion, not only of the typical digital objects, but very many new ones that have to be preserved in a way. This is what we are living. We're living the process here, librarians, of digitization, and we haven't finished the digitization. That blockchain is showing up. Blockchain isn't steady installed in our systems. That the artificial intelligence is knocking at the door. We have so many technologies pushing, but libraries will follow a little bit the same process that is happening, for example, in the music industry. Remember this support? I guess you know this. I don't have to tell you. Some classes have to explain what is it. Huh? All right, I will save it. So it's happened to be with the new support. They convinced us that with the digital CD, again, heaven in earth. No, very big things happened, and really happened. That big things. No, simply was a substitution, and they got it. New business. Had to forget all the old recorders, all the players. Still, people are arguing what is the best sound. But the important thing is that this digitization was an enabler to create Spotify. Spotify, Shazam, Lyrics, so many new services that are able to contribute you with great value. They're able to tell you about the music, what was the name of that music. They're able to locate music on the web, etc. So this is a big transformation to service. That was necessary a large extent the digitization. And now, if you have read, Spotify has bought a company of blockchain. Why? Because they want the authors to upload directly their creations on Spotify and not go through the seals. But for that, they need to grant the rights, and they plan to use the blockchain for the rights management. Huh? So that's a little bit the value management. Of course, when you have everything on the blockchain, then you need more artificial intelligence, because I can tell you that today, blockchain developments are simple code, very simple. There's no intelligence. And so that the more is put on the blockchain, then you need to adapt and use this artificial intelligence. The message is that after these examples, I'm telling you that there will be a massive migration of value onto the ledger. Ledger is the database of the blockchain where all tokens, all transactions are recorded there. You know the ledger, the book of the registration. That's I assume that you know a little bit blockchain. So that's the thing that's happening. The same process is being happening with digitization. Now we're about to see how migration of value move onto the blockchain. And value has a problem. Value can fade immediately, or can't evaporate, can suffer demurrage, because value is a property you assign to an object, a digital object. And value could be of many types. Of course, this is a good example. Do you remember this, of Banksy? Remember what happened? Banksy is a famous graffiti man. He painted this girl with a balloon, and he didn't say how people are buying this shit. And they paid, I don't know, £1 million, something like that. When they had installed a device, that when the device would hear the knock of the auction, would activate, shred, and destroy. And he nearly did it. It was half destroyed and got the stock. So what's the value now of this? What's a total disaster? What's Banksy doing? What's the value? Double. 25 now. How much? The last news I know was 2-3 times higher, but could be any multiple. It's multiplied. So value, of course, is something subjective. But instead of having a physical object, you have into a digital object. If what's happened to this piece of art happens to a digital object, this will be converted again into a bunch of uninterpretable bits. And you lose all your value because you cannot use still that piece of art of banks is still usable, but not a worthless bunch of bits. So the thing is, what we're seeing now is that what is called here the data deluge. Of course, the information is growing exponentially, like similarly to the law of Moore, the Moore's law, to the microprocessors. This is happening with data. Nearly every 18 months, it's duplicating the amount of data in the world. In this duplication, the 75% is by replication. It means like a cancer, multiplication of copies of copies of copies of copies. But it's growing indeed. So this guy warned us as a bigger problem, said, no, that's not a problem. The problem is the digital blackout. And then trying to do my contribution, say, oh, wait, if this is happening, the assets is going to happen with the blockchain. This is a danger, is the value blackout. Value that should be preserved, not only libraries, but everyone. Should be everybody contributing to preservation of value. So again, digital preservation. When we think, what's the heuristic rule to warn us that the digital object would be in failure? 15 years. From 15 years, it's the heuristic rules that a digital object could be suffer so many migrations, so many curation things, so many change of support of programs that indeed after 15 years will be not integral and will be not workable, will be not possible to be read. So about value. What is value? Value to me is value preservation is connecting digital assets to the future. It's whatever object, whatever asset you receive in custody that you need to preserve and keep its value, whatever value is, intact for the future. Because in the future, should be usable whenever they are needed for historic, for science, for whatever reasons to be used. The better preserved, the bigger value achievable. So the value preservation is something that I'm introducing. It's like a general category that contains digital preservation, and digital preservation, of course, contains custody and contains the backup of things. First, we need to back up content. This content is not really content, they are objects. And these objects, they're not objects, but tokens with value. Value preservation is different from value creation. Value creation means whatever value is in it, our mission is to preserve it for the future. Digital preservation comes from archives and libraries, and it fights the digital obsolescence. Value preservation, on the other hand, works on the blockchain, and it fights for the value demurrage. That's the point. One example of this, of value demurrage, is in the world of design. Of course, the copy of intellectual property. The copies. I think you are familiar with this type. No? Fake copies are reaching now an important part of the world economy. This is not that uncommon to buy products that are copied under unfair conditions. And this happened to me, that's real. I went to a guy on the street selling some stuff and asked, hey, are they on the blockchain? Say, yeah, sure, pure blockchain and cotton, guy. Yeah, that's, my question was, blockchain is supposed to defend the makers, their rights. It's an example of value protection. And the way to protect this is when you have data, the difference of data and the rights, or what is called the value, is because data in the internet, on the original world, is being copied many times. And your value, when you copy something to the infinite, tends to zero. Otherwise, when using blockchain, it's precisely managing this. Data doesn't move, only the rights. This is the duality. An example is, if I take a picture of you, and I send you this picture to all of you, we are only 30 in this class. So, with this method, with internet, I'm making a copy of you. The copy goes to the mail system. I have 2 copies. Then I send to you. We have 30 copies in your mailbox. So we have 32 copies. And then when you save this, likely, it goes to 60 and more copies So from one unique, we have soon 60 copies on every file system. When we do in blockchain, it's different. Doesn't sound good. I do I take a shot, and I'm sending you not the content, but the rights, the license. That's the difference. And with the blockchain, now it's possible to send you the rights of access so that you can take advantage of your rights and use. That's why I say only one copy, but 30 rights are on the blockchain, on the ledger, registered. That's the difference, you see. That's why handling with value and handling with data will change the way librarians will work when we have blockchain. So value preservation. Value preservation is always trying to keep content as quiet as possible, not moving. Only the rights are changing of hands. But the same as in digital preservation, obsolescence, after 15 years, here the more change of hands, the sooner or the later the value could fade because of bad usage or whatever inappropriate authorized usage. So that's the heuristics. This is not yet general, this is my proposition, but this is what I'm working on it on research. What is the license? Remember, we have an object, a digital object that we need to preserve, but as well the rights of the object. These are two things that we need to preserve. And the rights of the object, when we are in the technology today with blockchain, is a smart contract. You know smart contract? Smart contract is a program that is code the conditions inside that you agreed. It's writing a contract as a program of two parties. For example, a smart contract could be a rent. You can access this content if you pay me every year or every month or every time this amount of money as per usage. For example, this could be granted in a license. Content isn't moving, just the license. So every time you're granting somebody, you're just sending away the licenses. And licenses could be unique of the two parties who agreed that time. So, again, types of value. I introduced this. We have short-term, mid-term, long-term value. Of course, the historic is typically the long-term, and more economic is short-term. I'm going to give you another example, precisely with design of value. This is a digital object, for example, a design of a piece. This piece contains in a machine, thousands of hours of engineers, and trials and things. Can you imagine how much can it cost this? It's thousands of hours of engineers, hundreds of thousands of euros. So the design, the IP of this piece, is not only the digital information behind that have all the know-how, but the investment you send. So if this is digital, you have a lot of advantages. But as well, you have a lot of problems. How you store it, how you save it usable, how you trade with it, and, of course, how it can be hacked. And the thing is that this content, these digital objects, when they are badly preserved, they are used of attacks. 20%, typically Chinese, soon other people, but so far Chinese. And, but the more risk is people. We are the worst ones using this content. The most of the leaks are by people, unsatisfied workers or simply providers. And I can tell you, again, the problem. When one company asks for their providers for one new design, and they send, for example, this is a real case, one design of those to 200 providers to make proposals, quotes of design. So the same concept of the picture. They're sending 200 models all over the network, and they still have wondered how they copied us. But how come anybody's copying? But they're distributing the content like this, like crazy. So the thing is, again, the important thing is when you preserve your value, you don't send the content, you don't send your assets, you send the rights. And the rights is on the blockchain is the next thing that libraries will have or archives will have to preserve for the long term. And individuals as well. So that's for ending this introduction, that's trying to get you some concepts and opening you new questions. Is that there are novel ways for protecting expensive digital assets. You've seen, for example, tokenization. With the tokenization, it opens a new category of usage of the content and usage of digital objects. At the time I'm granting you rights for accessing the content, I can realign your interests. This is the concept of making users shareholders of the IP of the consumer product. That's blockchain. Now it's possible. So far it was impossible. I don't know if you get this. When you use it, you own it. That's the concept. When you use it, you own it. So far, it was really possible. When you use it, you only are granted a license like a renting or like you pay for using it. But with the blockchain, now it's possible for you to grant you rights on this object you are consuming, rights on the IP, rights on the essence of this object. So if you are able to fulfill this vision, then the more and more people will be aligned protecting this asset for being badly treated. That's the thing. That's what we call alignment. So users will be interested in not the content being copied legally because they are co-owners of this content. But not intellectual owners, but usage owners. And second thing is how you transform the digital preservation today approaches into value preservation. And this approach, again, takes the concepts of smart contracts, artificial intelligence, and blockchain to convert those tokens into full active objects that preserve themselves from digital obsolescence. So that's the approach. Today, the way archives are working with in preservation of collection, they use it at the collection level. You have a collection of objects, you ingest, you do all the metadata, do all the stuff, OIS method, etc., etc. And then the thing is, this is one problem, is the budget. How much budget do you have to preserve all this collection? And typically the budget is short. You don't have enough budget. So you need to take risks, appraisal of objects. What are you taking in or not? When you do it differently, we say, no, every digitally born object or asset is assigned a budget for its own preservation, digital and value. That's the concept. Small pieces, because if you are able to do this, then it introduces a new concept, as well possible with blockchain, is that you can assign virtual currency to an object to back the curation processes or the migration process or whatever services this object would need in the long term. And that's the definition of preserver. One preserver is the cost, the budget for preserving one digital object for 100 years. That's the definition. It's arbitrary. No? What's the advantage of using one currency for preservation? It's because archives will be something like this. You have to ingest, I don't know, 1 billion objects and say, oh, where's the budget? No, the budget is coming along with the objects you are ingesting. That's interesting. Because you don't need to apply always making difficult memorandums and apply for, please keep me budget. No, the budget is coming with the objects themselves. That's the new thing is happening. Of course, in experiments we do, preserva is very big currency, and we use MIDI preservers. That's a much more accurate currency. And we use technology, just for ending, we use technologies of auctions to create a market of curation and things, so that we have this type of preservations. These units are the number of 5 years. It means 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, till we hit the 100 years. And yeah, so far our experiments, we cannot get 1,000 years in digital yet. Sorry. But we're trying to get 100 or 70 years. In some cases, some strategies are letting the objects to be fairly well preserved for 25, 30 years or 35 years. Well over, it depends for long term how will work this these strategies. We need to do further research on that. And here you see the budget in mini preservers, how the budget, according to the strategies, is used. Because, of course, when you let the good thing, and that's why I was saying that after the blockchain, artificial intelligence is coming, because you will let this intelligence to be embedded into the objects so that they will help you manage them as a collection of objects to preserve them. And, of course, they will be somewhat proactive, saying, please, I need some action of curation for migration of format 1 to format 2 now. Or, no, I cannot do it. Well, tomorrow. Well, no, the day after tomorrow, so you will manage, technically, not you, but it will be a system to manage all these type of actions. And of course, as they will be paying for their own services, they will have strategies for managing their value. So, that's the second research, how to work on preserving value with a bottom-up approach. I know that libraries today are working top-down. With somebody setting the budget, their proposals, and their assign to a collection level. Blockchain will make it bottom-up. Sorry, I have to tell you. You don't like these things, but I have to tell you. And that's why, simply, I was talking that value is an interesting thing, because blockchain is introducing a concept. The concept is as value. And value, as money, doesn't make me happy, but I need it. So that's the, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you very much for your insightful lecture. You now have the opportunity to ask questions or to start a discussion. To whom may I hand over the microphone?
Do you have a Bitcoin?
No, I don't have Bitcoin.
That's good. That's a good one.
So I just have I mean, it's interesting, but I don't quite understand one thing. Like, how are those rights or licenses linked to the objects themselves, or how can they be accessed if you say they shouldn't be copied, but just the rights should be copied?
Yeah, that's technology. That's the technology behind that. The thing is that when the smart contract, the rights management, is like a door to the object.
Yeah.
So you knock at the door, they open, say, "Are you qualified in? Okay, come in." Mm-hmm. In today's technology, when you have access to the object, now you can skip the contract and you can go directly, and that's what you're thinking. But the more and more research are now giving with new technology that's named the sharding addresses, and this is type of technology that's behind blockchain that is enabling sharding addresses, that is enabling you that when the smart contract, the license, decides, no, you are not qualified because you don't pay or whatever reason, then there's no way to know how to get access to the object. And the object looks like lost on the blockchain space. So one of the concepts is that's amazing. That's amazing new thing. The blockchain is something like, it's fulfilling some of the prophecies of the digital. The digital were supposed to be eternal. They are eternal, the digits. Mm-hmm. But it depends if you have the instruments to read these digits and understand what's behind. Blockchain is immutable. Whatever is it there, is as well forever. But the same way, if the blockchain, you could be in the blockchain forever, or you could be lost forever. You understand? That's the concept.
Mm-hmm. But I don't understand if I have, I mean, usually when I have access to a digital object, that access means I basically have a copy of it. If I view a file on my browser, I have a copy of a file.
You have a different representation of the object.
Yeah, okay.
That's a different representation. It's not the original. It's a copy that could be not exactly the same, that looks the same. For example, you have an image full resolution, and then you have a small resolution. Yeah. It looks like the original, but it's not. For example, that's what I mean.
Okay, so you lose access to the original, but you don't lose access to any copies you've had? Or
today, with the blockchain, you could lose. In fact, you know how many people have lost their bitcoins? Are you aware that people have lost their bitcoins?
Yeah.
And forever. So we are using this property, but for good. in the sense that when you always keep your link, you as owner, you have always the link to your object. But when you link to others with licenses, these links could be cut. And for them, it's lost forever. Not for you, because you still have your link. Understand? That's the principle behind. Of course, you need to be careful. Don't cut your link.
Yeah, okay.
Understand? That's the way it works, technologically. I can tell you in further technology words, but this is the concept.
Okay.
Yeah, it's amazing. I know that it's something new. It's not the way it used before.
I have a problem to get this thing. Yeah. Could you make for us a conclusion, maybe of 1 or 2 minutes, and show us the main pictures one again?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The main picture once again. Mm-hmm.
And a very short conclusion.
A very short conclusion, sure. Well, perhaps this one. Well, this one perhaps is the. So, for the point of view of blockchain, blockchain enables you to handle with objects, digital objects, in a different way as they were handled today. In fact, you can not only manage objects as a collection, but as individual objects. That's one thing that's happening. And this has a lot of benefits, especially for budget management in the future impact. That today is crazy how the way you handle the enormous amounts of collections that are at your door waiting for their time for being preserved. Right? That's one of the important things that blockchain will contribute to. Second thing is that then you will be assigned another mission, is to preserve the rights or the value of these objects. Because you will have the custody, you will have the preservation of the digits, but as well, you could be in charge of taking this responsibility that so far you had no responsibility of protecting the value, the rights of the owners of these objects. These are two things that are happening and that so far were not possible without this technology. Yep.
If I get you right, then the real problem is preserving the digital representation. I mean, it seems to me a bit self-representing that the right, the access right to the object is on the ledger in the blockchain.
Yes.
But that's a digital value as well. So this is susceptible to, what did you call it? I mean, it can get lost. It can, you used the word for it, I don't remember. So that you have just the bits that you can't read anymore.
Correct, yeah.
So how do you solve this problem? I mean, blockchain can get me access to the value, but if I lose the bits in the right order, I lose everything.
It's true. If you have bad the digital preservation, then of course you have the rights on something that you cannot use. That's true. For example, if you have a piece of art, a design, in a 3D model inside your, and then you have some rights of several people, organizations that they, with these licenses, smart contracts, they know how to access and make their right actions on the objects. But then, because it's badly preserved, then it's unusable. Then they cannot access to the object, that they lose their value. So you need to go and find solutions to recreate the object, you know. But that's always a problem. That's the situation. That's the thing.
Blockchain cannot solve this problem.
So blockchain cannot solve this problem. No, cannot solve this problem today. Of course, blockchain cannot solve everything. No, that's the main thing. It's applied to everything, even for cooking. I apply a little bit of blockchain. It tastes good, but not for everything. Is what I mean. Instead of, perhaps the presentation should be more focused on saying specific problems that with blockchain could be solved. But I said from the beginning, I assume that you know blockchain is good for stamping, no? And then you have immutable stamping, you can grant accesses, you can better track supply chain. It means that if these objects are managed among several departments, you can track this better so that you can, if there are disputes in who is made some mistakes, then again, blockchain helps you solve this. These are typical, they say, these are the low-hanging fruits of blockchain that for sure could be deployed. Today, this promise could be deployed. That's the departing point. But then that is the high-hanging fruits, saying, okay, this could be applied immediately, so take for it, because this is good. But let's imagine that blockchain is opening new opportunities and new things and new problems that are coming. That's just trying to open your eyes. That's really, blockchain is something huge. The hype is hype, but blockchain is really worth it. This is what I mean.
I have two questions. First, you mentioned the co-ownerships on the rights.
Yes, that's the concept, new concept, yes.
Yeah, but isn't it the same as having lots of copies, as having lots of co-owners? So it's getting less, it's not...
Less valuable.
Yeah, less valuable, yeah.
You share your value. It's not less valuable. It means that the value you have is shared. You know? And the advantage of sharing part of your value is that you have more people interested and you keep on keeping your value. This is the principle. It's like when you claim companies, don't be so greedy, share a little bit more. But yeah, but how do they share at the consumer level? In the example of OpenVino, for example, they have this similar principle. You drink it, you own it. That's the principle. It's brave. You have a piece of the original company in the Argentinian place, you know, by simply drinking. That's amazing. Of course, these people are very, very much interested in that company in Argentina soars and do well. You know, and I observe they say, wow, but how come? It's really people are changing the mood. So let's imagine if you have a piece of content of that today, if somebody's copying it, say, okay, it's copying. What can I do? But if you feel it's yours, despite a small piece, you'll say, hey, guy, don't copy. Because in fact it's part of mine. This is the concept.
So the goal is that as much people as possible get these co-ownership, so it's actually increasing its value.
Its value and its preservation for a long term, because the more and more people will be interested that this will survive. That's a hypothesis that I'm observing in several projects that we think that will be well applied in the domain of... Because my departing point was always when I was starting working in digital archives in 2006 with Rick Archivet in Sweden. They were always frightening me, guys. We cannot preserve everything. We always, you know, we don't have budget for that. And with the digital, this was going to get worse. And always my mandate was, okay, how can I contribute? And now with blockchain, now we have more means to contribute with that, to how realign people, to protect the content, protect the value, the assets, and how you can get budget realignment so that it's well preserved for longer term. That's a little bit the mission. You have two questions.
Yeah,
second one.
The other is I'm an archivist, more with the paper archive, but appraisal.
Paper, I'm not interested. No well, paper, no blockchain.
But appraisal is one of the main goals or the main issues for an archive, and I'm wondering if you just say let's put everything on blockchain, don't you appraisal at all? So every digital object has the same value to be preserved.
No. But
so how do you?
No. Of course, appraisal still exists. Appraisal, it's your job, guys. You know what to. But once you take in, you ingest, you accept them. So how you handle with these objects? You know? That's the thing. Today you do it at collection level. No, and well, that's the only way today possible. With the blockchain, it's possible to change the way they will be managed. And what we foresee is that doing it bottom up will be then budgets will be more atomic, more liquid. And our simulations, because today there are just emulation and simulations, are telling us that this will be much more efficient from the point of view of archiving than it is today. That's our research. It's not, research means not now, means then 10 years, 15 years. But for you guys, 15 years, nothing. Come on, it's just like this. It's tomorrow. Just a question to you. Are you using any blockchain thing in your, still not? No? You do good. It's better others do it and then go for safe solutions. But for stamping, it could be useful, stamping. Whatever content you give the hash, and then this content should be, at the moment you can say, okay, this record is on the blockchain so that it will be acknowledge that you take that content. That could be a good thing, stamping and acknowledging all the proof of existence, what's called. This could be a good thing to add, and it's simple. It's not that costly. Yeah, it's a software simply. It's a process that you get it. You have all the hashes. You upload it on the blockchain, and then you have proof of existence of contents in your organization. That's very easy, affordable. Even there are some free services that they offer this. You don't have to pay for because there are some ledgers. There are some services that whatever content you apply for a stamp, they upload it into full ledgers, into a ledger of Bitcoin, a ledger, the big ledger, but Litecoin, Ether, and fourth one I can remember. And they do it for you for free, so far. But yeah, why do you try these things? You'll see some of the amazing things then you can prove that that object was with you and that's unique and that's original. This is fun, real fun. Yes, sure. Sorry. sorry. You don't want a genuine picture of me. That you can have a hash, not a hash of me, perhaps.
So are there some more questions?
So I'm very glad to have this chat with you guys, because I said I know that you have a very, very hard job, trying to fulfill all your obligations under the conditions you have. Always lack of budget, always a lot of things to be done. That's how I don't know how you manage these things of this overwork. What's your position? And a little bit the blockchain should be thinking how can you save or improve your business in this time. Right then.
So thank you very much for sharing your knowledge and your thoughts with us, and thank you all for coming. And we move now on to the last point in our itinerary, the apero. And I hope I see you all,
stop,
all by the apero. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to you.